Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.
All right, welcome. This is episode 413. How you guys doing out there? I'm going to be working on some comics. I should have been doing this live stream yesterday. I literally did do a summer day. For those of you who don't know, it's a summer vacation. I'm off during the summer, and I should be working on my comic, but yesterday I got really distracted. And I got a little bit done, but not as much as I'd like. So, anyhow, stuff came up. Comics today. If you notice that I'm chewing gum, it's nicotine gum. I've been off vaping nicotine for like 4 weeks to a month now. So I'm trying to keep with that. So hopefully the gum thing isn't irritating to you guys. I'm using different cessation devices to try to just kind of kick the habit entirely. And I'm going to work on art. I'm going to work on page number 153 of Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Artcasters on Tuesday was incredible. If you guys haven't listened to it, go back after this stream. But we had Keith Foster from Making Comics on, a good friend of the show, a friend of mine as well, and just some really insightful conversation. I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it too. I know a lot of people who follow this stream also will like watch the Artcasters, which is kind of our weekly show that I do with Scott Cirkland and with Corey Kerr sometimes, although Corey's no longer. But we'll do that show quite often every week. But one thing I haven't been doing for like the 400 plus episodes that we've done is like writing out questions before the show. I think I've tried that one time before, and I tried it with Keith, and I think it might be the way to go. But I'd love to hear your opinions on it because, to me, one of the fun things in a chill conversation. But I do think having that structure of some structured questions kind of keeps us on the rails, and at least for me helps because I can get rambly, as you can see in the stream. So I do feel like for my own live streams, you know, I'll freeform and shoot the breeze. And I think with Artcasters, obviously, episodes that I'm hosting, I'd like to actually come prepared with a couple questions just so that they're rails and I don't, ramble my way out of an audience on it. But it was a really, also one of the reasons I like it is it was a really good it was just a really productive and cool conversation. Yeah, Chris was saying it's like a well-moderated panel. Good questions definitely help. Yeah, for sure. How's it going, Chris? What you up to? How's life treating you, my dude? I have a couple things I'm going to talk about today while I work, but what I'm going to try to do is just do a rough for page 153. So I have to kind of go through reviewing the script, breaking it down, and then kind of roughing it out real if I can, while I'm roughing, obviously I'm going to have to talk about the script and stuff like that. I also want to talk about just the weirdest dream that I had the other day. I know it's like but it's weird. I don't know if you guys have you guys ever had a time where you are dreaming really deeply, and you return to an area you've been before, like in dreams, like so where you're like in a neighborhood that doesn't exist in the real world, but it's existed in multiple dreams that you've had. I have, and then I'll forget about it, and then I'll have that dream again. In it, and it won't be the same dream. It's like not even in the situation, but it's the same kind of world that I'm kind of navigating around, and I'm like, oh, I know that store. You know what I mean? Like these are all like things that have been invented in this little dream world. So, I would love to talk more about that and see if that's a common thing, and if it is, I'd love to hear your common dream things. This is the joy you guys miss out on during the school year. Is my dogs losing their marbles throughout the day when somebody walks by. All right, while they're barking, let me pull up the art stuff. All right, here we go. Yeah, Chris said, I've been to a familiar place that's never been. Yeah, and this is more where, like, I've definitely had those times where you, like, dream, and maybe I'm dreaming of an old friend or something, and I'm calling them by name, but they look nothing like my friend, but I just know that who they are, or like, the thing feels familiar. This is like, oh, I've been in this exact spot, and I remember the previous dream that I had of it, where I was like, right? I'm just using that as an example, but it's like I was at a mall, and last time I took a right, and ended up seeing these different shops, and now I'm like walking up, and I'm seeing those same shops on the right, but this time I decided, oh, I'll explore what's on the left. Like it's like the same map in my brain. That's kind of weird because it's not just like the sense of familiarity, but it's like a literal like repeat location that's been popping up in my dream. It's really weird. And the location is the end of the world, guys. The end is nigh. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's find. That's where. This is where I announced I'm actually going to stop my art career and just start a weird cult, a dream cult. Saying ever met an amalgam and oh man, that's a hard word for me. An amalgamation of two or three people in a dream, like meeting a sister or boss, but I'm only a child. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely had that where you meet somebody who's like four people that you know. I still think comic at some point too. All right. Sophie waits inside the entrance. Okay, so basically, here's the thing. What we've done so far in this story, I'll just catch you up on the last few pages. Robert Browning is up late because his wife is in bed, kind of feeling terrible. And she wakes up from sleeping, having like a fever dream of her brother. She's kind of starting to talk to Robert about it when the doorbell rings. And it's like, wait, what? So Robert goes out. Wilson kind of lets Robert know, are you expecting anyone? And Robert's like, no. So then on the last page, Wilson goes away to check on who it is. basically saying, hey, it's late. And Robert's saying it's almost 9 o'clock. Keep in mind this is Victorian time, so 9 o'clock's super late. Like, here's the thing a lot of people don't realize, I think. People like me, who are like crazy night owls, where I'll be up like super late at night. I wonder if that existed as much, like people who, or just their natural rhythm or whatever was to like be up from, the golden era of like 12 midnight to like 6 in the morning. Like that. There's people I've met that are like me in that sense, where it's just like my natural. If I allow my body to just go into its natural rhythm, that's where I naturally want to be. And I have to kind of fight that with my life, right? Like the way I set up my life, like the way I wake up. I'm not a morning person, right? To me, that's like my golden inspiration time and stuff like that. But now go back to the Victorian era, where electricity really isn't a thing, and so most lights are gas lamps, candles, and it's like, how often do you have like a writer staying up till 6 in the morning? I think around then, 9 o'clock is pretty darn late, right? You think about night now, and everything kind of closes, but it closes a lot later than I think things used to close, because just thinking about it, it makes sense that it would be like super late. Now that I'm a parent too, and I'm getting older, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I have like 3 or 4, like my beard is gonna go gray pretty soon at some point, because I have like these little. It's kind of the unfun part about going gray, where I have like little spider webs of gray that are starting to appear. But anyhow, so I'm old now, so like 9 is probably like late, for me again. But I'm not like that old. But my point is, I think in the Victorian era, that's really kind of late, especially to be showing up at somebody's house, especially if you're a woman alone, right? Like that's super dangerous. So Sophie's waiting outside of the entrance. And that's going to be the beginning of this. So Wilson's gone to kind of say, hey, we're not taking visitors. And Wilson saying, it's Miss Eckley. And he's like, did you tell her we can't receive her? And she said, and Wilson, their maid, says, yes. She said she won't go. So that's kind of where we are. Okay, so now that we know the scene, let's start roughing it out. And in this case, I'll make like a list and like a little thumbnail, but I think maybe I'll just go nuts and actually just do the rough straight up. One thing I need to check: do I have my references of the main living room? Because this is an actual place, and I do need to have that pulled up just so I can visualize in my head. There's the pantry. There's the outside of Casa Gaidi. The kitchen. I just got to go through some of these things that I've stored just to see. That's the bedroom again. It is good. I think if you have a place in mind, that's the Reimers. That's the Reimers house. If you have like historical reference of a place, you actually have to be. Doesn't hurt to like have references of the actual location. There's Casa Gaidi. There's the pantry, the kitchen. I don't think I have it, so I might have to pull from a different page. That's the other place they were staying at. Let me try to kind of leave like junk layers. Okay. So I have to pull open. Let's go back here. Let's see if I can look through my files here. I thought I had everything ready to go, but apparently I didn't. Luckily, I think that this is the most common location I'm using, and so I think that I just have to find like a previous page where I used that location, and then see if I have it stored in that location's folder. I know, not very exciting. Because I have like a slush pile basically for each place, or for each page of references. So I try to keep them in folders, but I want to do this without occupying like too much data. So how are you guys doing, by the way, while I'm looking? What are you working on? So it will show up. Actually, that's pretty good. So that's page 88. Maybe page 88? So that dream was like really weird. So we start talking about it while this takes forever to load. My computer is getting older, so it's a lot slower at opening files than I'd like. Oh, did I freeze? Hopefully I didn't freeze. I froze over here. My computer did not like it. There we go. Okay. You guys, I have found a reference. Okay. Again, this is just a rough, but it's like, you know, if I'm roughing it out, I want to make sure I'm keeping locations where they should be. There we go. That's a pretty good rough of it. So I want to make sure I'm keeping locations. Let's also turn off the guides because I don't need those just yet. I want to make sure I'm keeping these references. You know what? I'll just call this Casa Main Room. You guys, I've been in such a weird work mode that like my art table is like just a stack of like stuff. Like my drafting table is just piled with just stuff to sort and get to. Okay. I'll get into the dream in a second. So Sophie's waiting outside of the entrance. Oh, what's the Casa Guidi entrance look like? Now I gotta look through and find the Casa Guidi entrance. How annoying. Okay. Sorry, guys. We gotta go back here. We found the interior. But this, actually thinking about it, it would make more sense to have, if I'm showing her waiting outside of the entrance, that might actually be nice to have from Sophie's viewpoint, which would be outside of the door with Wilson kind of looking through it. So that's going to probably be earlier. Let's see here. Did I ever show the entrance? This is the annoying thing about working on a long sequential piece is if you're working on like a 24-page comic, it's pretty easy to remember if you showed the entrance of a building. So if in this case, you know, I've got 150 pages, 150 plus pages to kind of try to remember. Did I show the front entrance? Because I don't want it to magically change. While I'm looking for this, so this recurring dream is really weird. So there's like this airport that I dream about often. And for some reason, I know it's in Long Beach, right? Because I used to live in Long Beach. But it's like a crazy airport where there's like a million like freeways overlapping that kind of enter to the airport. Crazy parking structure. It's like an airport mall. The best kind of living description I can make of it is like comparatively, it's kind of like the Denver airport, which is like a huge mega mall airport. But it's like that, but it has like this crazy glass ceiling. Anyhow, so I've been to this airport in dreams many times. The weird thing is there's like a bookstore that I've gone to that's kind of like a Powell's Books type book store. It's like a huge like 3-story bookstore with like sorry, still kind of peeking to see if I can find the but anyhow, there's like this crazy parking structure going on. Is that at Casa? That is. Okay, so we found it. So page 30 is where I need to look. Okay. Then I can get more into this crazy dream. So anyhow, in this dream, in dreams prior, I've gone to this. I've had some really weird experiences in dreams at this exact like airport mall thing. And generally they're like weird like shopping dreams, which is like weird because I don't go shopping a lot. Type of guy who's like, let's have fun and go to the mall. I think the only times I'll go on like shopping casual things are when my wife and I'll go to like Little Tokyo or something. But in general, we're not like frequenting the mall. And in fact, I'm such a homebody, I don't tend to like look forward to going to like the mall or like airports, so, like places that I'm like fantasizing about like heading to, let me see page 30. Okay, it is like the third. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think I found the entrance, guys. Okay. So anyhow, like, in this dream, I'm heading to this parking lot, and it's these long stretches of driving, and you know how time is in dreams, where it's like, I can tell I've been, driving for a really long. But anyhow, finally I find like a parking spot. Adam, welcome. We're talking about dreams with recurring locations. So I've been having these dreams lately that are like revisiting a dreamscape location that doesn't exist in reality, but it's a place that has like a geographic map in a dream. Like, it's really weird. So I thought I'd talk about it because I think it might make for an interesting little short story at some point. Who knows? It could also be one of those scenarios where I pretty freshly dreamed it, so airing it out loud, it might sound more absurd and less interesting. So anyhow, so I get to this crazy parking structure in the dream, right? And then there's like a auto drive button, but it's not like a modern like GPS. It's just a button, like a Batman, 19 like an old, Adam West era Batman button that would be on a car that says auto drive. So I like click this button, And I think to myself, like, okay, um, right here, okay? So we got our entrance to reference, and then I have the interior of where, so these are the actual locations that I need to be making these pages take place. Okay. So the first panel is clearly going to be Sophie waiting outside of the entrance, anxiously clutching bag. This is just like the setup, guys, of a historical fiction book, because I need to know, I need to always be keeping in mind what these actual humans look like. So at this point, I need to pull open my one picture who's a real person. Boom! There's Sophie. Strange Sophie Eckler. Okay. Okay, and we're on the right layer. I'm going to just call this rough. Usually I'll make like a list before this. But in this case, like list, but in this case, I'm just going to start drawing panels because I'm feeling in the mood. And maybe I'll do this and fail and be like, that's why I make a list first. So Sophie is going to be waiting outside of the entrance, anxiously clutching her handbag. Okay, so I want, in this, it to be a shot of Sophie. Oh, she's waiting inside the entrance. My brain is trying to figure this out. Okay. Would it make more sense for the door to be open? The door would be closed at this point, but I do feel like I feel like it would make more sense for Robert to be talking, like Wilson didn't even let her in the door. And now Robert's, so I'm going to change that because I think it's more dynamic to have him kind of peeking through the door. And then she'll walk through. So anyhow, so I press this auto drive button, and I know in my head, in the dream, that my car will drive back to my apartment in Long Beach. But here's the catch. It's not the actual map of Long Beach. It's like dream logic. So I know what the map is. To get from the airport / which by the way is already wild because like if you've ever been to Long Beach Airport, it's not a mega airport mall thing with giant pristine glass ceilings. But anyhow, in my head, in my dream head, I understand that. So I'm gonna have her standing outside. Hopefully they like that. That would suck if they want to change that. But I think it's a little more dynamic to have her outside clutching her handbag. So we're going to have this be Sophie at that entrance. Let me just draw this real quick while I'm talking. So anyhow, so I go from this to these like giant escalators. There's like layers of escalators, like look like the 405 freeway, but they're like moving escalators. And I go down these escalators like for a long time, right? And it goes from like the parking lot structure is really creepy and like dark and stuff, but then it goes to like daytime. And the escalators kind of take you through under this giant glass ceiling to what looks like just like a level mall kind of thing. And there's stores everywhere, but the weird thing is there's stores I've been to in dreams before. So again, like there's a bookstore that I've dreamed about in there, going to a bookstore and finding like books that I really want, and then like somehow getting lost in the mall or whatever. Like, there's like a fruit stand in there that carries like all these different tasty, delicious fruits. Um, it's like a juice shop kind of thing, but it's like I've bought like a smoothie there. I've bought there's like a food place. There's different places that are in this like mega mall thing, and there's like discount stuff because I think I dreamed about guitars there before. And so there's like this giant uh, department store that's like a Costco kind of size department store that has like this huge music section that sells like vintage guitars for like nothing. And I've been there before and found like a vintage guitar and had dreams there before of like browsing guitars, Um, but anyhow, so this last time I dreamed about it, it's like I know the layout of the mall. I know that like escalator, if I go like far and to the right, it's going to take me to this like juice place. I know that there's a coffee shop like right across from it. I know all this stuff. And I know I've been to the bookstore, which is like if I go down this hall, like this mall walkway, right, to the left, like across the way from the escalator entrance that takes me to the creepy parking structure, which I've totally been to before too, in like multiple dreams. It'll take me to this like bookstore. But I also know that there's an escalator, like if I make a right past the and this, I guess this is interesting to me because I don't often have like vivid dreams. Like I do dream quite a bit, but I don't often remember them enough to like really like find them consequential in any way. I just realized she's not going to have this like ball thing. It is neat too, and she tends to wear scarves. And then I forgot to have her. She's supposed to actually be clinging to her purse, her handbag. Okay, that actually works. And then we'll have this the scarf, and let's have this be the handbag. Okay. So this dream gets even weirder because it's like this juice fruit shop thing. And by the way, this is one of those dreams where I can like colors are really vivid. So the fruit stand is like gorgeous, and you smell all this like wonderful like citrus kind of smell coming from there. And there's like a cookie shop, and like there's the smell of like freshly baked cookies, and okay, hold on. Okay, so we're gonna do this. So the fact that I don't have vivid dreams a lot makes this really weird to me because the last few years, whenever I've had vivid dreams, they're always in this like map that I know is. I know where all the locations are. Like, it's really weird. And it's like I can choose to navigate like different areas of like this exact map. Like it's a video game or something where it's like a pre-designed map that I'm just, it's really weird. So anyhow, I know from another dream, because there's this dream that I had going, and if I go past the like fruit stand and the there's like a coffee shop and a cookie place. I know if I go to the right of that, I go down a long escalator that takes me all the levels down to the street level, and then I can cross the street and end up in this like strip mall area that has like this really awesome like hipster restaurant that I've totally dreamed about too. That looks like just a piece of junk on the outside, and then when you go in, you get these like special reservations, and it's just like this like the best food ever. And it's just packed. But which is weird because again, I'm not even a foodie, so it's just bizarre. Okay. Stuck on the talking about the dream because I've been wanting to talk about this on stream. So anyhow, there's also like a bodega, and there's like there's just all these weird like little shops. Like it's about 6 shops. So anyhow, so I find my way. I make my way down there, knowing where that location is, right? And then I eventually get down to this like bodega area, and I walk past, like this antique shop that's there that I've dreamed about and visited. By the way, so I go down the escalator, right? Go out the front entrance of this crazy mall, like glass cathedral, and walk across the street to this like strip mall that looks very much more like Long Beach. It just looks like, if you've ever been in like the bad areas of Long Beach, that aren't that bad, but they're just not like the safest areas. This is like one of those. It's just a really like not so great shopping area, right? Where you'd find like a like there'd be like a, what is it, a carniceria or whatever, like the there'd be like a pawn shop. Just the look of it, the condition of the area, right? There, you'd most likely would find like a paid anyhow, it's that kind of vibe, right? But this one's an outdoor mall, and it's across the street. So I go there, and I am excited because I finally get to go back to this like bar restaurant that's so exciting. And so I walk through there, and it's like this long process, and I finally get to this bar restaurant, and I'm excited because I've been here before, and it was a really cool dream. So I'm like, sweet. And this is definitely one of those dreams where I know I'm dreaming, and I'm navigating an environment that like I've been in dreams before. And so I finally, like, by the way, this is not the most profound dream in the world, right? But I get a notification because I start realizing, like, wait a minute, what happened to my car? Like, this whole time I'm like, wait, I don't have an auto drive button in my car. Like, how did that work? Like, I gotta check my phone. So for some reason in this dream, like, this is a new function because I've never had the dream have my car like auto drive, right, to get to my I'm like suddenly like I've walked quite a bit from this mall, and I'm like out in this like kind of cool area with like a hip bodega thing, but then I'm starting to realize it's getting a little later in the day, and like, dude, I don't really feel up to like walking. And here's the weird thing. I know the path. Like, I know the path that I'd have to walk in Long Beach, in Dream Long Beach, because it's not real Long Beach. And so I'm like, man, that's going to suck. I don't want to have to do that walk. So and then I'm like, wait a minute, but I have a car, and like, why did I auto drive? Why didn't I just park it in the parking lot? Like, why did I have it drive back to my apartment? So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just have to get back there, but I should check to make sure my car's okay. So I look on my phone, and my phone has like an app somehow that shows me like footage of my car like arriving at my old apartment complex, but it's not my dream was my old apartment complex. So my car has arrived there, right? And it awkwardly like parallel parked, like kind of trapping in the neighbor's car across the way from my apartment. And I'm like, in my head, like, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be awkward because I can make the walk. Like, what if my neighbor needs to like get out and like my car like auto parked and like blocked him in? Like, he's going to be pissed. And by the way, I don't know who this neighbor is. I'm just like, well, that would suck. That would be like the worst scenario right now is, somebody needs to get out of here. Oh, this is supposed to be Robert opening the door. Oh man, this. Which way did I have that door open? Okay, I have it opening to the back. Okay. So then this would need to be, and it's like a big old door. So this will be Robert kind of here saying, so this is going to be Robert saying, like, Miss Eckley, it is late. And we're going to have him, maybe I'll have his, like, arm here. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys the rest of this weird dream, and then I will get back to chat because I want to hear your guys' weird dreams as well, especially if they're dreams that are at locations you've like they're almost like locations in your dreams alone, because to me that's really fascinating. I don't had that happen before, other than just this one location where it's like specifically a map that doesn't exist in reality, but it's like so consistent from dream to dream that like I can return to this map whenever I'm lucky enough to kind of dream about it and like know where everything is. Okay, so anyhow, so okay, I love this. This is actually going to work for that first burst of stuff, but I want to pull all my references so they're easily attainable. Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn these off, and then we're going to, like, refine this a little bit. So, okay, so here's the thing. So then I look on this, like, app. I'm worried I've, like, blocked my neighbor in, right? Like, my car has boxed them in. And then on the camera, I am, like... Like, suddenly the neighbor comes out of the house, gets in their car, and just, like crunches into my car because my car had auto parked and blocked him in. So my car's, like, completely totaled, and I'm like, crap. And so then I wake up. And that was the dream. Nothing, like, super profound or anything like that. But I wake up feeling like, man, now I gotta walk to, like, my apartment and like go sort this out with my neighbor instead of going to this cool bodega place that I've been in dreams before. Anyhow, wild stuff, but it's like, but it reminded me of like all the dreams I've had in these different sets on this, like, in the past, and it just was really interesting to me. Just thinking, like, does that happen a lot to people? Because it doesn't happen a lot to me. Like, again, I have dreams. I used to have recurring dreams sometimes, but I've never had like a dream that was like a non-existent location and I could like navigate it in different spots. But then like if I go back the way I came in a previous dream, it like takes me to the same area, like as if I'm visiting an actual place. in a dream. So anyhow, I'm curious what you guys think about that. Are any of you guys like dream interpreters? Let me know. But it was really interesting and fascinating. Um, it's like a really weird experience, but nothing like, not that my life is not that strange to where or boring to where like a dream is like the biggest thing in the world. It was just a really it was just interesting to me. Um, Especially that glass mall thing, and that the fact that it's an, I don't know how I think it's an airport because I've never seen planes um there. Like, I don't know, it's just a really weird, very like very strange dream. Why am I doing lowercase? This is comics, guys. Should be Miss Eckley. Mrs. Eckley. So that was an interesting thing that happened lately. I'm going to read chats in 2 seconds. If you don't want to wait 2 seconds, I do have super chats available, but if you just wait like a few seconds, I'm done with the once I'm done with this this particular panel of roughs. All right, panel of roughs. I don't think I like that location for the tail of the word balloon. I feel like tails of word balloons need to be. I'm really particular about them pointing in the direction of the mouth that's speaking. I feel like it always looks really awkward if a tail doesn't, like, at least point in the direction of the speaker. Best cartoonist with word balloons, right? But like, there is one thing I will say that I like about my comics, even my early comics, that I think a lot of cartoonists might actually kind of struggle with in their first few. It's clarity. Like, it's not hard to tell who's speaking in my comics. And I think that's a big deal. Like, when you're doing word balloons, like, if you accidentally read a word balloon out of order, and you have like a cartoonist friend who's like, no, it reads the other way. That's not a you problem. That's a cartoonist problem. So like the order of hierarchy in balloons is like super important, because to me, you know, even though like my favorite cartoonist is Chris Ware, and you know, some people find Chris Ware's work to be like entirely unreadable because it gets so complex. I do think his work, if you pay attention, is like really easy to follow, and shockingly so, because he does so many weird things with paneling. Like, he does a lot of confusing things with paneling, but he does such a good visual job of like leading your eye that if you just kind of naturally go with it, you'll find yourself like rotating a page and being able to follow it entirely. But I do feel like if your story's not clear, if it's not clear, it's like speaking in a language that doesn't exist to somebody, which might sound interesting or sound cool, but it's going to have trouble communicating anything, you know, like. And since stories are communication, I think that's one of the key things of comics, is making sure you have clear communication. All right, ladies and gents. Panel 1. Okay. Let me read everybody's dream stuff. So I'm going to have her walk through. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have her walk through the door. I think that's a little more dramatic. Okay. Let's get into the chats, and then I will probably play a little commercial while I get some coffee, and then we're going to finish this page up, or at least work on the next. Chris said he was working on packaging design, fighting the urge to play hooky and work on side projects. Yeah, I understand. I played hooky yesterday and worked on watching. What did I watched Gladiator 2 for some stupid reason yesterday. Which I never. I might be an anomaly, but I'm not like. I think Gladiator visually was a really interesting movie, but I am not among the people who think that was like the most earth-shattering plot in the world. I think it was cool to see the attempt to kind of make historically accurate stuff from that era, but I feel like plot like meh. But I don't know. I will say gladiatorial stuff and just the idea of that in history is really interesting. So I was like, I'll give it a shot, and then I watched it, and it was as good as I expected. I didn't expect it to be a brilliant movie. It's got a lot more, even more plot flaws than the original, but it's fun, and like the action scenes are cool. Some of it was so far from history that it was like kind of goofy, like having sharks. I don't know if you guys have seen Gladiator 2, but in the Colosseum, they flood the Colosseum, and it's like, okay, I can buy that because I think that happened once. Historic thing, where they had it set up where they could flood it and then stage like a ship battle for the Colosseum, but I don't think it was common. And then second, the thing the movie does is they're like, yeah, we'll do that because that could have happened historically, so we'll take that liberty. And then they're like, and we're throwing in sharks. And it's like, oh, come on. How are they going to train sharks? Like, with their level of technology at that era, I don't think they would get a shark alive to their... Like, I just don't think that kind of aquarium technology to have a shark transported to the mainland and still be alive, I don't buy it. I don't think that would have been possible at that time. Ever met an amalgamation? Okay, we already talked about that one. Adam said, I have a recurring dream of being at an old house I used to live at, and my teeth always fall out. Yeah, I've had the teeth falling out dreams. The teeth falling out dreams are like the worst. Where it's like that is one of the most horrifying things in the world. And it usually does start really innocently, where you're just like, oh, that's what. And yeah, I don't know. That's the worst dream ever. Often in that dream, I'm trying to convince someone it's just a dream, but they end up talking me out of it. Recurring dream locations are fascinating and disturbing. Chris said it sounds like a dream negotiator trying to plead for the existence of their reality. Nice. And then Adam also said another recurring dream is getting excited about a new Calvin and Hobbes book at the bookstore only to wake up and realize it was fake. Always Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, I've definitely had this one, Adam, where you said are really cool used sketchbooks at thrift stores with really cool artwork in it. Yeah, I have that with guitars and books, which I'm not surprised. I think about things that I nerd out about. It's pretty much like books and guitars. Dylan said, I lucid dreamed once. I was in a corner gas station store. I opened one of the freezer doors and get a drink and realized that I was dreaming, but then I hit my head on the door and stopped lucid dreaming. Isn't that the worst? Like, of the lucid dreams I've had, where you actually like take control of it. Like, you not only realize you're dreaming, but you're like, oh, not only that, like, man, they're often for me like action ones, where you're like getting beaten the crap out of or something, or like chased or something like that. And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm dreaming. And you're like, you know, you get to matrix things for like 2 seconds and then wake up. That's always the annoying thing about dreams where you actually have agency in your dream. Like, usually action movies where it's like you're being pursued but you're like powerless, and then you finally realize you're dreaming and you finally get power, and then you wake up. You're like, oh man, that would have been cool. Why can't I have a cool action dream where I'm like, you know, I don't know. Chris says, so the bodega is your childhood and the auto drive car is your moral compass. Nice. I just set it on auto drive. Adam said, I can usually interpret the meanings. Yeah, Adam was saying like he can usually there's like a logical thing where it's like, oh, I'm falling because my feet are off the bed. You know, it's like a lot of it's like your positioning when you fall asleep. Yeah, Adam said that sounds like Austin Powers logic with the shark. It is, but it's supposed to be in like the Greek, like in like in the Roman Empire. Like, you know, at the height of like the Roman Empire, like they somehow not it wasn't cool enough to just show the Colosseum like flooding and battle, which, you know, didn't happen at that time, but it did happen in the Colosseum at least once. And I mean, that's cool enough to show, but of course they have to like Hollywood it and go, and there's sharks. It's like, well, I mean, they had rhinos in there. Why do you need sharks? Like, why do you have to add sharks? But also, it's kind of fun. Okay. Uh, um, and then I will be right back. I'm going to basically play a trailer while I heat up some coffee, and then we're going to get into our next panel of the page. Let's see here. Let's play. Home Shopping Crumble. I'll be.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does.
Oh.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You could put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
All right, so Paul said, "Is this stream spicy? I need to know if I can stay." I don't think so. I do want to show you guys. While I was getting my coffee, I was reminded to show this off. My buddy was in Portugal, and he went to like Fez. He actually bought me a Fez in Fez. But I think while he's in Barcelona, boom, he just happened to walk and stumble across this giant Chris Ware exhibit that was like at the Institute of Art. So he bought me this mug. Isn't that the coolest mug in the world? And then look, it's got like rusty brown on the inside of the mug. I was like, this favorite mug. I can't drink out of this. It's too cool. Anyhow, I just thought, what a small world where, like my friend just goes on this vacation. He didn't even plan on stumbling upon like a giant Chris Ware exhibit. But he sent me pictures and stuff from it too, where it's like, like floor to ceiling, like reproductions, original Chris Ware pages. It was a whole exhibit. Kind of cool. I'll be right back. I'm going to put this back, but I wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was awesome. I just thought that was like a crazy coincidence, Barcelona. I think people say that with a lisp, right? I don't know why, but they do. I should do a stream wearing a fez. Is it still socially acceptable to wear fezzes? I don't know. I think they're the coolest hat ever. Ever since Ren and Stimpy, I've been like, I absolutely love just the hat that's a fez. I just think it's the best thing ever. Spain, they have the lisp. Okay. Barcelona. Okay, so let's do this next one. He approaches her, but does not take her hand. And she's basically saying, yes, Ba wrote me to tell me she was ill. I could not stop myself from coming. I was afraid. Paul said Catalan Spanish pronounces it like that. Bartha. Nice. I did not know this. I'm not as I am pretty knowledgeable in specific areas, but outside of those areas, other than just like random weird a lot about some really basic things. like I didn't actually realize there was a place called I did remember there was a place called Fez, but I kind of forgot about it till my friend was going to go there and I was like, "Well, you have to bring me back a Fez from Fez." Cuz what else what else are you going to get in Fez, That's the coolest thing ever. Okay. But I do think I'd have to look into it a little bit, like the history of the Fez, Okay, Mrs. Ackley, it is late. Okay, so this is going to be from the interior of the house. So let's look at the main room. You got your main room? Okay. Okay. We're going to continue this. I'm going to save what I have, though. Here's the thing. I want to keep her on the left and Robert on the right. So I'm thinking now we might show the other side of the door. Oh, here. Okay. I think here I'm going to actually just have her pushing. So here she's going to be this. I want her kind of I almost pushing the door past. And what would she be doing with this? Like maybe holding her skirt. And she's got the... And then he's going to be... Okay, I'm going to have him kind of... Just kind of trying to... He needs to be remarkably taller than this. And he's not wearing a vest. I keep forgetting in the scene. Okay. There we go. Again, this is a rough. But here I want to have the closed door. And then here I want to have like the entrance that she's basically pushed open. And now she's saying, okay. Okay, so she's supposed to be saying yes. So I almost wonder, I haven't read a lot about dream. I remember a long ago, I dated a goth girl a long time ago, and way before I met my awesome wife, right? And I remember that being a really weird interest. Deep guy, especially at that time. You know, I was a really emo kind of kid. Well-read, liked books, liked poetry, liked art, liked making music, that kind of stuff. Artsy guy. But the one thing I didn't have in common with, like, gothy people was, I'm I've been a realist, like, for a lot of my life. Like, I do believe in beauty and, like, abstract ideas and stuff, but and so, for me, like, you know, conversations about like dreams and deep meaning of dreams, and like not dreams that are having to do with like dreams of things you want to do, but like, you know, I had the strangest dream. Which again, I wrote a whole book that's like dreams and reality kind of start interweaving, and there's meaning behind the dreams and stuff. But like having long conversations, I just remember being, you know, being the outside guy in the dream conversations, because they'd be like, oh, I had these dreams and this is what it must have meant. And I'm like, you know, Mr. Skeptic, who's just like, I don't know, dude, like, you could have just dreamt it because you were sleeping weird, you know? Anyhow, as I've gotten older, though, so I'm just saying, like, younger me, and this was like late teens, I didn't vibe with the whole, like, dark, dreamy stuff, which is funny because I love the Sandman and a lot of, like, dreamy type stuff. That's weird. So Paul said he was awakened from a dream where my car was stolen. Interesting, because we both had car dreams. It would be funny, Paul, if you were awakened from a dream where your neighbor had blocked you in at your apartment in Long Beach, and you were like, screw this guy, and you totaled his car, because it's like our two dreams connected. So the weird thing is, yeah, Chris was saying dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake. Duncan, Idaho, and Dune. By the way, the Dune series, it's incredible. I love it. That would have been a wild story, though, wouldn't it, Paul, if we had dreamed in the same. I do like the idea of dreams, like interweaving and stuff, and I do think it's interesting, like the subconscious, conscience or conscious mind, and how it we can kind of embed things. Like I almost wonder. I haven't read a ton about dream research kind of guy. But I do. This does make me think, like, if there are pathways or like maps that we have in dreams of locations that we can return to over years, right? You can almost like visit a world that's mapped out there, and it's like something recurrent where you can return and you can navigate in different ways, almost like you have a little 3D map in your brain of that specific thing. I almost wonder if that is like a map of your neural pathways or something. I don't know. I just kind of wonder. Consciousness and all that stuff is really interesting, but I do wonder if maybe that is like a map. Kind of, if it's more of like a 3D map than I think, like kind of like working in a similar way to a program. It's interesting. Oh, Dylan was saying like he had like a precognitive dream. Interesting. Paul said he believes in supernatural power and dreams in any religion, genuine premonitions. And then that's the weird thing. Is it a premonition or is it intuition? It's just interesting. Like, I wonder about that. Like, is that like your subconscious just kind of knows something's up? And then, you know, that your conscious mind maybe hasn't processed yet. And so it's like maybe there are a bunch of signs or indicators that something awful is going to happen. Your dream tells you it's going to happen because your subconscious has already dealt with it, but your consciousness hasn't. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think there is some truth to like Jungian ideas about consciousness and stuff. Okay, here we go. I do apologize. Ba wrote to me to tell me she was ill. Here's the weird thing, though. If, like, Elizabeth wrote to her to tell her she was ill, why doesn't she, like, time her arrival to where it's not, like, 3 in the morning or whatever? What a crazy lady. Oh, I accidentally did this on the, that's okay. Did this on the wrong layer for a second, but that's okay. We'll fix it. Put it on its own layer. Sophie's a strange one in this story, okay? Could not stop myself We're almost there, guys. Paul was saying, why can't it be supernatural? Come on, man. No, I do think consciousness in itself, like, is an interesting... Like, there is something supernatural about consciousness, I believe. I don't think it's just neurons firing. It's really interesting the way that our consciousness and our conscious experience does seem to like be almost like a program in a weird way. It's very fascinating. Like they can trigger neurons in the brain to kind of make people see visions and stuff. It's kind of interesting. It's also kind of like, I don't know. It's bizarre, you know. Okay, stop myself from. But no, I think there is like a supernatural element to consciousness. For sure. Now, I think if somebody like is claiming to be psychic or something like that's where I get super, you know. I'm like Robert in this book. Robert's a skeptic. I'm a skeptic. Like, I won't discount it as possible, but I will be entirely skeptical of it. Especially like psychic stuff, because like I love like watching Mad. Like times I'll go down a kick and watch, you know, I don't know, like a Darren Brown special or something. Darren Brown's great, by the way. But it's like I know from too many magicians who are able to like very convincingly do cold readings that there's kind of a trick to it. You know what I mean? But I also have been to. It was like amazing, and it did feel for a second like, oh my gosh, these people are like, you know what I mean? Like there's people who are really good at cold reading, like incredibly good at it, you know, to where you would think they're contacting the spirits and stuff. And I would be almost convinced, except that I've seen magicians do equally compelling cold readings where you would think, I know that. And then you start reading about cold reading. And in the day of the internet, you know, the age of the interwebs, where a lot of those like manuals on how to do cold reading and stuff are publicly available. You know, you get a little skeptical of it is all I'm saying. You know, like I would not. Oh, Paul said, I'm bummed. I got to go help my daughter. It's fun to hear you talk about. Oh, well, don't be bummed. Go help your daughter. That's your job as a dad, my dude. Go do your job, Paul. I'm just kidding. But thank you for stopping by, Paul. That's cool. Have you guys ever like? It's funny too because I'm like. I think there's a big thing nowadays where people are really into the idea of like the idea that there's like some plane of existence where, you know, people are able to access it with like specific drugs or something like that. That stuff I'm really skeptical of because I think the mind you can hallucinate pretty easily. You can experience things that feel really real in your mind just from like, you know, hallucination and stuff. So I don't know how much of that to buy, but then that brings up really fascinating things like the fact that even just from being stressed out, somebody can like break with reality and experience reality completely differently than other people. You know, they can hear voices, they can see things that aren't there, just from like misfiring of like their brain just not working the same as, or like certain things being out of balance, like chemically with the people. It's like, to me, that is really fascinating and suggests something weird. I'm not sure what it suggests, but it definitely suggests some kind of pliability with experience. Yeah. Okay, we finished our second panel. I'm gonna kind of continue. Yeah, Chris was saying ayahuasca trips. I've written an outline for a future comic about this type of mind-altering chemical and plant, similar to spice from Dune. But here's the thing that I'm curious about is, I wonder how much of it is also, like that kind of thing might also just be drug hype. I know that's weird, but it's like a lot of people over glorify like drinking is a good example. There's a million stories out there where people, you know, like a good example, in Dumbo, they play that whole thing where Dumbo accidentally gets drunk and starts seeing like dancing pink elephants. But before the movie Dumbo, like the pink elephant thing was a thing that drunk people would say they saw. I don't think I've met somebody who literally actually saw pink elephants from drinking, you know? But that's a thing that people say they see. It's interesting. So I kind of wonder. Okay, I'm going to be right back, and then we're going to do the next trailer. This time I'm going to put on... I'm going to put on the Frank's Adventures in the Library. I'll be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Krembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer,
and author. Two Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide.
You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. Alright, let's go.
All right, guys. So, yeah, Chris was saying it also creates an unearned wisdom. Yeah. But then it is interesting because at the end of the day, like, this is kind of the Jungian thing, right? But at the end of the day, it's like you kind of only have your subjective experience. Like, that's the hard part about being kind of human is a good example of just something that to me is really interesting. I have a friend who, at the early stages of there was a vaccine, they got COVID, and something about it had like triggered something in their immune system that caused like extra fluid to build up in their brain, like in their skull. And it was some kind of reaction to it. So he ended up with like extra fluid in his skull, and the extra fluid in his brain basically was causing pressure to like push against his brain and causing. And so he spent like a year like looking at the sky, and it would just like do acid trip colors and stuff. And he said like the floor became like a skateboard ramp, like things would just kind of bend, and he almost thought he was not going to be able to like work. And then I guess it finally like cleared up after like a year. The sky changed colors and like different things warp and change. And all just from like extra buildup of fluid in his brain that had to eventually be treated and I think drained or something, which is insane. And it's like, if that was everybody's experience, let's say all of us had that extra pressure in our brain, then if everyone's experience on the earth was like the floor bending like a skateboard ramp and the sky changing colors 50 times, would we really view the floor as solid all the time? Like, it's an interesting idea of like, if everyone, then what we think is real is like, could be the delusion, you know? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. It's Robert saying your fears are justified. So now we might need to do... I'm trying to think of like how to lay this out, and I'm wondering if maybe me skipping the thumbnail was a bad idea, but we'll see. Okay. Showed her across the line. That's cool. That's like the one way you're supposed to show crossing the line. So now Robert's on the left. Okay. Chris said, I got to run. I'll try to catch the rest of this on mobile. Nice. Let's see here. But until a couple years ago when I had an experience where, reality just kind of eroded for a little bit, I definitely... I can see how easily rationalism can just kind of slip by the wayside. Because if your experience of something is different from the rational reality of it, become just as real to you as as anything else. And the idea that we're fragile enough to be able to have that just kind of slip away super quick is really fascinating, but also disturbing. All right, guys, so we are... I don't want him to look so inquisitive. Okay. So there's Robert. And okay, I think I got it. And then she's going to be here. Your fears. Retype this. Dylan was saying science is starting to prove some practices and beliefs to be true. Well, I think that what happens is when you demystify things that people have associated with, like the supernatural, and you find a naturalistic explanation for it, it tends to make real the things people thought wasn't real. I mean, prior to kind of gravity, like the idea of some, like the consistency on the earth of things falling when you drop them was probably like some sort of magical thing. It's like, I can't explain it. Honestly, I don't think science really has a perfect explanation of gravity. Outside. Like, they know what causes it, but like the big why, I think there's a lot of basics that people don't actually understand. Okay. So he's supposed to be saying your fears are justified. Your are justified. Only a few weeks ago, she was picture of health. I don't like that at all. That needs to move up. And then that'll be on her left now. Perfect. Let me adjust this real quick too. But yeah, dreams are fascinating. I think the idea that we are even, I guess it's a very, it seems like a very uniquely human thing. The only thing is, I do think animals dream for sure. I haven't really read up much on it, but I will tell you, my dogs, when they're asleep, they totally dream about like running and stuff. Because they'll be like, you know, moving their legs like this and going woof woof, like they'll do little barks and stuff while they're sleeping and stuff, and like sniff, like as anyhow, they do stuff that makes it, it's very clear, like rapid eye movement and stuff when they're sleeping. And I don't know if it's engaging on the, like, maybe it's not on the level quite that that we dream, but sure looks like it. Okay, that actually makes more sense here. Okay. And that gives more room. Less crowded. I don't like that being right under his nose. Perfect. Okay, and then we're actually getting pretty close. I actually don't mind this too much. I'm going to readjust it a little bit. Dylan was saying, yeah, dogs definitely dream. You do wonder, though, like, what do dog dreams look like, you know? Okay. here we go. We're going to have okay. If you knew Bob well, you would know that she has never been the picture of health. Has been the picture of health. Oh, I don't like this like, I don't even mind. I'm generally anti-orphan in type. Like, so this health part, it kind of bugs me that there's an orphan, but I'm okay with it. But here, it just feels like too much, so it has to say of health here. I can't break the rules twice. I'll just look unintentional. Actually like the idea of this being tight on his face. That's kind of awkward. I know how I'm going to make it work. And then we'll have her head here. All right. So the thumbnail, guys, are rough. Does not need to be perfection. But this gives us an idea of like the staging. Obviously, I'll have more of a forehead when I finish the final. But I think that kind of... Okay. Now what I need to do is we're going to make our borders. Let's view extras just to make sure it's lining up. Good, good, good. It is. Okay. So, merge down. I want to merge this down. And then we're definitely going to fix our panel borders up a little bit. Did it? That needs to merge down too. Okay. So let's get our panel borders, get this a little more aligned with the outside so that when we get to finals, it's going to be a lot easier. Perfect. Now I just need to turn the opacity down on this. Turn off our view extras, and we'll just kind of fix this up. So the cool thing is, this is almost already there. Oh, That's not right. This is almost already there for borders on this part. So for anyone who's curious too, these are preset templates that I've made for my roughs, and they alternate between the recto and verso positioning on the page. So one template has more bleed on the left, one template has more bleed on the right. And templates from even to uneven, if any of this is making sense, hopefully it is, then I'll have the correct template for each page at the rough stage. So when I go to final, I don't have to worry about making sure that the templates are aligned and set up correctly, because I've already done that early on. That's actually a huge deal with books that cartoonists should be aware of. Like early on, it doesn't hurt to know your format of your pages and your printing. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's going to help you a lot when it comes to finalizing the product. Because if you're making them all to a specific size, you obviously want to make sure that you're setting up the art and stuff to a specific size. Now, you can format art that already exists in the a lot more work than it needs to be. If you just knew the size you were going to print at from the get-go. Now, that can be problematic when you're pitching books to publishers because they might go for a different size. And in that case, good luck. I think this book might actually... This book will be the first book that's kind of close, if not completely, in the correct, in like the classic comic size. I think it might be a little different, but I'm pretty sure it's just standard comic book size, which might end up being the first comic I've done that's in standard size as a graphic novel. So often my books will be kind of close to like 6x9. But the nice thing is I don't even have to think about the sizing because I already got the sizing from my publisher early on, and so we just kind of size it to that with the correct bleed at the edges, and as long as that's alternate, once this is finished, it will be a very quick process to kind of put it together. In theory. Okay, there we go. We got our edges. I'm happy with that for the next rough page. It is not perfection, but it's good enough to kind of send to the publisher, make sure they're happy with the staging, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me while I did a rough. I will probably be streaming again later today to do another rough. So make sure you've hit that bell. Hit that bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. And also that you're subscribed into Stories, my 2 existing graphic novels, or just listen to Joshua Kemble or No Saboteurs on streaming platforms everywhere. And if you're watching this, please hit the like button. and I will see you guys. I'm probably going to go get some food, and then I will be probably back streaming hopefully today. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Streams with me. I will see you on the next live stream. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's live stream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.